Rashta Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shri Gurudev Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishutta Rashta Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupada Rashta Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupada Rashta Śrīmad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupada Rashta Śrīmad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Bhāgavata Shri Gaurāṅga Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Shri Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Upal Patadash Raghunath Shara Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai. Namachay Shlahiras Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaura Mandal Vaja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kund Ki Jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Shri Mohini Akadashi Titi Ki Jai. Akadashi Titi Palan Kari Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hari Bol everybody. Dandavat Pranam. Raseshwari Mataji, Madhavi Didi, Rohit Radha Krishnan ji, Sudevi Didi, Dandavat Pranams to all of you. Hari Bol. So today I went through this book, Bhāgavata Pravāha, and I divided the summary on the 10th canto into 3 parts. So that we can just get a quick overview of the 10th canto before we begin reading it. And also at some point I would like to, maybe after I read through this recap of the 10th canto, would be nice to go through all the cantos very briefly, just so that we have a basic idea of what each of the things that happened in each canto, sorry, all the things that happened in each canto. Ganga Didi, Dandavat Pranam. Mike, it's been such a long time. So I hope everything is okay at your house now. You have, your power is back and there wasn't too much damage. Please give us an update, Ganga Didi. And Dandavat Pranams Gargaraji, Hare Krishna. Alright, so let me share my screen with you. I stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning trying to finish the next video for Vine of Devotion. And I finished it, but then I was having trouble exporting it. Still having trouble, so anyways. Hopefully, and actually I'm gonna go through it again one more time, so. Yeah, anyways, that will be coming out soon though, hopefully within an hour of this. Canto 10, Mother Yashoda and the Gopis discuss Krishna and separation. Right. The 10th canto of the Bhāgavatam represents the beautiful lotus face of Lord Krishna and comprehensively describes the topic of Ashray, or the supreme shelter, Sri Krishna. Shukadev Goswami ecstatically describes in this longest canto the appearance and pastimes of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan, Mathura, Dwarka, Hastinapur, and other places. Krishna's unlimited transcendental attributes, his amazing reciprocations with love of his devotees, and his compassionate deliverance of those who are inimical to him, as described in this canto, are the worthiest subject matters for one's contemplation. They constitute the most precious gift for the devotees to absorb themselves in Lord Krishna's glories. Hearing in brief about Lord Krishna's pastimes, Parikshit requested Shukadeva Goswami to further elaborate the Lord's nectarian pastimes. Shukadeva narrated. Oh, one second, let me just check I am using the right sound. Oops, I'm not. Okay. So Parikshit requested Shukadeva Goswami to further elaborate the Lord's nectarian pastimes, and so Shukadeva narrated. Once Mother Earth, being overburdened by demoniac forces, took the form of a cow and approached Lord Brahma. Brahma took her and the demigods to the shore of the milk ocean and chanted the Purusha Sukta prayers to please Lord Vishnu. Vishnu pointed out to Brahma in trance that he would soon descend to the earth and ordered the demigods to appear in the Yadu and Vrishni dynasties, when power overpowers love. Kongsa, the son of the Bhoja king Ugrasen, was lovingly driving the chariot of his newly wedded sister Devaki and her husband Vasudeva of the Yadu dynasty. Suddenly, a celestial voice warned Kamsa, "You fool, the 8th child of this woman will kill you." Sinful Kamsa immediately took up his sword to chop off Devaki's head. But Vasudeva stopped Kongsa and tried to pacify him with logic and philosophy. Seeing the unrelenting persistence of evil Kongsa to kill Devaki, Vasudeva promised to hand over Devis to Kongsa immediately after their birth. Kongsa trusted Vasudeva, known for his integrity, and thus spared Devaki's life. Eventually, when Devaki gave birth to a son, Vasudeva took him to Kongsa. Pleased with Vasudeva's righteousness, Kongsa returned the child. Thereafter, Narad Muni approached Kongsa and bewildered him, saying that any of Devaki's children could be the cause of Kongsa's death, and not necessarily the 8th child. Narad did this only to expedite Lord Krishna's appearance. Now insecure, Kongsa killed the son of Devaki and Vasudeva and imprisoned them. Mercilessly, he killed 6 sons of Devaki year after year. And there's a footnote here. All these events happened as the 6 sons of the demon Kalnemi were once cursed to die at the hands of their father. In this birth, Kalnemi appeared as Kongsa, and the 6 sons appeared from the womb of Devaki. Kongsa became an enemy of the Yadus, and even imprisoned his own father Ugrasen to secure his position. Birth of the Unborn. In the 7th pregnancy, Lord Ananta, Balaram, entered the womb of Devaki. Upon Lord Vishnu's order, Yogamaya transferred that child to the womb of Rohini, another wife of Vasudeva and Devaki's 7th pregnancy was believed to be a miscarriage. Thereafter, the primeval Lord Krishna entered the noble Vasudeva's mind, and then into Devaki's mind. Various demigods arrived at the prison cell of Kongsa and offered their prayers to the Lord in Devaki's womb. Eventually, the Supreme Lord made his auspicious appearance in a beautiful 4-handed form. Vasudeva and Devaki fervently offered their prayers to the Lord in the mood of devotees, and expressed their concern for their son's safety in the mood of parents. Reciprocating with their love, the Lord transformed into a small child and inspired Vasudeva to take him to Gokul. Vasudeva was ready to do so, despite his promise to Kongsa. By the will of the Lord, the doorkeepers of the prison fell asleep. The doors mystically opened, and Lord Ananta came to Vasudeva with his expanded. As Vasudeva carried baby Krishna, River Yamuna parted to give him away to cross. At Gokula, he entered the palace of Nanda Maharaj and kept baby Krishna next to sleeping Yashoda and took her newborn daughter, returning back to Kongsa's prison, all in the dead of night. Upon learning the birth of the 8th child, Kongsa arrived swiftly and ruthlessly tried to smash the baby girl onto a stone slab despite Devaki's piteous appeals. The child, however, slipped from his hands and appeared in the sky with 8 arms holding celestial weapons. She was Yogamaya herself. Rebuking Kongsa, she said, "What is the use of killing me? The Lord who is going to kill you is already born elsewhere." And she disappeared. Kongsa was astonished beyond wit. He released Vasudeva and Devaki and fell at their feet, begging forgiveness. Noble-minded Devaki and Vasudeva, who saw the hand of the Lord in everything, gave up their anger towards Kongsa. Kongsa's mind, however, was soon polluted by his ministers, who advised him to kill all the children who were born within the last 10 days. They flattered Kongsa with deceptive praises and proposed killing of Brahmins and cows, and thus stopping all sacrifices for Vishnu. Heeding to their evil plans, foolish Kongsa ordered them to persecute saintly persons, and his wicked followers did so. A celebration and a caution. At Gokul, Nanda Maharaj pompously celebrated the birth of his son. This event was called Nandotsav. He gave 2 million decorated cows and 7 hills of grains in charity to the Brahmins. The entirety of Vraj was decorated with festoons, flags, garlands, and mango leaves. The Gopas and the Gopis of the cowherd community dressed themselves gorgeously to celebrate the grand festival. Rohini, who was then staying at Nanda's house, also decorated herself and participated in the festivities by receiving the guests. After the Nandotsav festivities, Nanda Maharaj went to Mathura to pay taxes to King Kongsa. Upon getting the news of Nanda's arrival at Mathura, Vasudeva went to meet him and inquired about the well-being of his sons. Being aware of the evil plans of cruel Kongsa, Vasudeva warned Nanda, who immediately set out to return. The witch who became a mother. In the absence of Nanda Maharaj, a demoness named Putana entered Gokul, instigated by Kongsa. Disguising herself as a beautiful woman, she attracted the attention and won the trust of all the Vrajvasis. She then entered the inner chambers of Nanda's house. Smearing her breasts with a fierce poison, Putana took infant Krishna on her lap and started feeding her poisonous milk. The Supreme Lord Krishna eagerly sucked her milk along with the poison, and then her very life heirs. Unable to tolerate the acute pain, Putana loudly wailed and ran out of the house. Assuming her original gigantic and ghastly form as a witch, she collapsed, crushing all the trees under her 12-mile-long body. Seeing this unusual incident, the gopis were terrified. Picked up baby Krishna, who was unalarmed and playing happily on the body of the Rakshasi. Yashoda and Rohini were totally shocked to do anything. The other gopis, who were also bound by maternal affection for Krishna, did various rituals and chanted mantras to invoke the protection of Lord Vishnu on the baby. The Vrajvasis then cut the body of Putana and burned with wood. The burning body of Putana emanated a sweet fragrance due to its being purified by Krishna's touch. Because she offered her milk to Krishna, Although poisoned, Krishna nonetheless gave her the position of being a motherly nurse in the spiritual world. Krishna accepted Putana's motherly attire and actions, overlooking her wicked intentions. Who else could be more merciful than Krishna? It's a famous verse. Ahom stanakala kutam. Killing a demon by kicking the cart. When Krishna was 3 months old, one day he attempted to rise and turn around on his own. This stage of child's growth is celebrated by the parents as the Utthana ceremony. So Mother Yashoda conducted a bathing ceremony. For Krishna. During the event, seeing Krishna sleepy, Yashoda made him lie down on a bed under a household cart. She then became busy in attending to the guests. After a while, Krishna woke up and began to cry for his mother's attention, and, as is common for infants, he threw his legs upward. When Krishna's tender foot touched the cart, it immediately broke and was dismantled, making a huge sound, astonishing everyone. Yashoda hastily picked up the child, and Nanda had the Brahmins chant Vedic mantras for Krishna's safety. Actually, a ghostly demon named Utkacha had entered the cart, Shakata, and had wanted to kill Krishna by falling upon him. Krishna, however, effortlessly delivered him with a gesture of an infant throwing his legs into the air while crying for her mother's attention. An exciting flight. When Krishna was a year old, one day, Mother Yashoda lovingly patted him as he sat in her lap. Suddenly, she felt that Krishna had become heavy like a mountain. Unable to hold him any longer, she placed him on the ground. At that time, a demoniac associate of Kongsa named Trinavarta appeared in the form of a whirlwind and lifted Krishna, who had become as light as a feather, to facilitate his kidnap. For a while, entire Gokul was overcast with dense darkness from the dust storm, covering everyone's vision. Unable to find Krishna next to her, Yashoda fell down and lamented like a cow that had lost her calf. Meanwhile, Trinavarta took baby Krishna 800,000 miles high into the sky. Krishna suddenly became as heavy as a mountain, and the demon couldn't bear his weight or even throw him down. As Krishna was holding Trinavarta's throat tightly with his tender grip, he looked like a beautiful sapphire locket hanging from his neck. Becoming utterly helpless, he crashed down on a big boulder in Vraj, along with Krishna, right next to the lamenting gopis. As a result, all of Trinavarta's limbs got dislocated, but Krishna, unharmed, was happily playing on his chest. The gopis anxiously approached the demon's dead body and picked up Krishna. Seeing the wonder child, the Vrajvasis were astonished. This, however, only increased their affection for Krishna, whose safety they considered to be the result of their own pious acts. Similarly, one day when Mother Yashoda was feeding her milk to Krishna, he yawned, and Yashoda saw the entire universe within his mouth. Her heart began to throb in astonishment as she closed her eyes, but even then, Krishna's godhood couldn't impress upon her. Instead of becoming awestruck and reverential, she started loving Krishna even more. The Naughty Almighty. One day, Garga Muni, being sent by Vasudeva, came to Nanda Maharaja's house and conducted the naming ceremony of the 2 babies secretly in a cowshed. So as to not raise Kongsa's suspicion, he named the son of Rohini as Ram. Oh, sorry. Oh God, I'm sorry, guys. So he conducted the naming of the baby secretly in a cowshed, so as to not raise Kongsa's suspicion. So yeah. He named the son of Rohini as Ram, one who gives happiness to everyone, and Bala, one who has extraordinary strength, and Sankarshan, one who united the 2 families of the Yadav dynasty. Oh, I never heard that meaning of Sankarshan before. Naming the all-attractive younger child as Krishna, he said, "Previously, this boy appeared as the son of Vasudeva. He has many names and many forms. He will increase the bliss of the cowherd community and will protect all people. He is exactly like Narayan, so raise him with special care." After a short time, Balaram and Krishna began to crawl on their hands and knees in the muddy places of Vraj, created by cow dung and cow urine. Dressed in dirt, the two babies looked immaculately beautiful, causing unparalleled bliss to their mothers, Yashoda and Rohini. Sometimes Krishna would catch a calf's tail. A calf's tail? Okay. Sometimes Krishna would catch calves' tails, and the frightened. Sometimes Krishna would catch a calf's tail, and the frightened calf would run, dragging him here and there. Seeing this, all the motherly gopis would laugh. Yashoda and Rohini were continuously in anxiety, trying to protect their restless babies from knives, monkeys, cows, and so on. Soon enough, Balaram and Krishna started walking. They would play with other children and enter the houses of the gopis to do all kinds of naughty pranks. The gopis, who were in fact entranced by those activities, would still come to Mother Yashoda complaining against Krishna. "Your son releases our calves before we milk the cows, and no milk is left for our households. He devises various means to steal our tasty curd, butter, and milk, and he distributes them to the monkeys. If he doesn't find butter in our houses, he agitates our small babies by pinching them. If we hang our pots high on the ceiling, he makes holes in them by throwing stones. When we catch him, he says that we are thieves. Sometimes he becomes angry and passes urine and stool in our clean houses." One day, Krishna's playmates, along with Balaram, complained to Mother Yashoda that Krishna had eaten dirt. Yashoda became worried and asked Krishna to open his mouth, and when he did so, Yashoda saw the entire universe within the belly of her little son. Yashoda was astonished and thought, "Is this a dream? Am I in mental derangement?" But inspired by Yogamaya, Yashoda then discarded her vision as an illusion and took Krishna on her lap with increased motherly affection. One second, just making sure everything's running okay. Okay, it looks like it. Dandavat pranam Rukmini Didi. And Shore Prabhu, Mantra Murti Mataji. Bound by love. Hearing the unparalleled affection of Mother Yashoda, Parikshit asked Shukadeva Goswami, "What pious activities did Nanda and Yashoda do to achieve this perfection in their parental affection? Comparatively, their position is superior to Vasudeva and Devaki, who couldn't enjoy Krishna's childhood pastimes." Shukadeva Goswami replied, "Once Drona, the best of Vasus, and his wife Dhara requested Lord Brahma to permit them to be born on the earth and have the Supreme Lord as their child. Brahma granted their request. Thus, Dhara and Drona appeared as Nanda and Yashoda. Subsequently, Krishna and Balaram appeared in Vrindavan and increased their pleasure. In fact, Yashoda and Nanda are the eternal parents of Krishna, while Dhara and Drona performed sadhan and merged with them to experience loving affection for Krishna. While Yashoda and Nanda were Nityasiddhas, or eternally perfect associates of the Lord, Dhara and Drona were sadhansiddhas, or those who attained perfection by spiritual practices. To extol the glory of Yashoda's motherly love for Krishna, which was eternal and was not a result of some sadhan, Shukadeva Goswami narrated the amazing pastime called the Damodar Lila, the epitome of all the Vatsalya pastimes of Krishna. One day, early in the morning, Yashoda was churning yogurt while singing the childhood activities of her darling child. When Krishna then woke up and stopped Yashoda's churning and sat on her lap when she lovingly started feeding.
Krishna then woke up and stopped Yashoda's churning and sat on her lap when she lovingly started feeding him milk. Suddenly, she heard the sound of boiling milk spilling over in the kitchen. She immediately kept Krishna aside and ran to the kitchen. Krishna became angry and broke a pot, stole the butter, and started feeding it to the monkeys. Upon returning from the kitchen, Yashoda found the broken pot and baby Krishna's lotus footprints escaping the scene. She started searching for Krishna with bittersweet anger. Finding him feeding the monkeys, she silently came with a stick from behind to teach him a lesson. Krishna, however, ran away in fear while crying. After a long chase, Yashoda finally caught her son, chastised him, and decided to bind him to a wooden grinding mortar. Her ropes, however, kept falling short by 2 fingers, despite her joining several ropes together. Seeing his mother's desperate endeavor to serve him, Krishna became merciful, and Yashoda could finally bind him. In his bound condition, Krishna saw 2 tall Arjuna trees in his backyard. He dragged the grinding mortar between them and caused them to fall down, making a tumultuous sound. These trees were actually the sons of Kuvera named Nalukuvar and Manigriva, who had been cursed by Narad Muni to become trees. In the past, they had been bathing with some girls in the Mandakini Ganga when Narad Muni was passing from there. Seeing their degraded condition, being victims of wine and women, Narad mercifully cursed them to become trees in Vrindavan and thus enabled them to witness Krishna's childhood activities in Nanda's courtyard. Now, by Krishna's grace, they regained their original forms and offered prayers to Krishna. O Lord, hereafter we will describe your pastimes with our words, perform devotional activities with our hands and legs, think of your lotus feet within our minds, offer obeisances to you with our heads, and see your pure devotees with our eyes. One day, a fruit vendor came to Krishna's house. Krishna ran quickly to her with some grains in his little hands, but by the time he reached her, most of the grains had fallen out. Enchanted by his beauty, the fruit vendor lovingly fed Krishna's hands with many fruits. As a result of her selfless loving service to Krishna, her basket was instantly filled with many jewels and gold. Disturbances despite relocation. The disturbances in Gokul due to Putana, the cart, Shakatashura, Trinavarta, and the Arjuna trees, alarmed the elderly cowherdmen. Especially concerned about Krishna's safety, they all had a meeting and considered it wise to leave Gokul for Vrindavan. After relocating to Vrindavan, 3-year-old Krishna was given the charge of tending the calves. One day, as the little Gopas were tending calves in the forest, a demon named Vatsasura arrived there in the form of a calf, desiring to kill Krishna and Balaram. Krishna noticed it and pointed it to Balaram. He then slowly approached the calf demon, caught his hind legs and tail, and whirled him very strongly until the demon was dead and threw him on top of a kapita tree. When the kapita fruits fell down, all the Gopas enjoyed them. Another time, the Gopas came near a lake to drink water. There, they saw a gigantic bird resembling a mountain peak and became afraid. It was Bakasura, the crane demon, who then immediately swallowed Krishna. Seeing this, Balaram and the other boys were aghast and became unconscious. However, within the mouth of Bakasura, Krishna became like fire, burning the demon's throat. Unable to tolerate the heat, Bakasura immediately ejected Krishna. Seeing Krishna unharmed, Bakasura again attacked Krishna with his sharp beak. Little Krishna then caught his beak and effortlessly bifurcated it, just as a child splits a blade of grass. The Snake Cave. One day, Krishna decided to take his breakfast as a picnic in the forest. Thousands of Gopas joined him with their numerous calves. Though their mothers decorated them nicely, They again decorated themselves with fruits, flowers, peacock feathers, and forest minerals. They would steal each other's lunch bags and tease the owner of the bag by throwing it amongst themselves. They would imitate the buzzing of bees, sing like cuckoos, run behind the shadows of birds, dance like peacocks, jump like frogs, make faces like monkeys, and condemn their own echoes while seeing their reflections in the water. These boys who were playing with the Supreme God Krishna in this way, these boys who were playing with the Supreme God Krishna in this way were not ordinary. They must have performed countless acts that are pleasing to God to have received this opportunity to play with Krishna now. Aghasura, the brother of Putana and Bakasura, fuming with anger and seeking revenge for their deaths, then assumes the form of a big python, 8 miles long. He lay down on the road, opening his mouth wide open like a cave, which the Gopas thought as a nice scenic spot. They playfully entered Aghasura's mouth. Krishna wanted to stop them, but they had already entered. Invincible Krishna then entered Agha's mouth and enlarged himself within the demon's throat. Agha also increased his body, yet he was suffocated, and his breathing stopped. His eyes popped out, and his life air burst from the top of his head. Krishna then glanced at the gopas and calves who had collapsed by the poisonous fumes inside the demon and brought them back to life. From Agha's body, a glaring effulgence came out and entered Krishna's body. Thus, Krishna liberated Aghasura, who had intended to kill all the Vrajavasis. Confusion of the Creator. The demigods celebrated Aghasura's death in the higher planets. Hearing their songs, Lord Brahma wondered how could a little cowherd boy act so wonderfully. It was almost a daily routine for Krishna in Vrindavan to kill some demon who often, curiously enough, appeared just before lunchtime. After killing Aghasura, Krishna brought the gopas and calves to the beautiful riverbank of Yamuna and proposed to have lunch there. They all sat down to eat in concentric circles around Krishna, who appeared like the whorl of a lotus, while the boys appeared like its petals. They tasted each other's preparations, shared jokes, and laughed. Seeing the Supreme Lord's exchanges with the gopas, even the demigods were surprised. While the boys were enjoying this, their calves went deep into the forest, being allured by green grass. The gopas realized this and were frightened. Krishna told them to continue their lunch, and he personally went out in search of the calves. Brahma, wanting to test the power of Krishna, stole all the boys and calves. Despite searching everywhere, Krishna couldn't find the calves and returns to the riverbank, where he found the gopas missing too. Lord Krishna could immediately understand the deed and mood of Brahma. Then Krishna, by his supreme mystic power, expanded as all the missing gopas and the calves, exactly replicating their bodily features and mannerisms. Thus Krishna, surrounded by his own expansions, entered the village of Vrindavan while playing on his enchanting flute. He entered the respective cowsheds as calves and homes as gopas. He entered the respective cowsheds as calves and homes as gopas. All the Vrajavasis had more affection for Krishna than their own children and even their own selves. Previously, the elderly gopis of Vrindavan had desired to serve Krishna like Mother Yashoda did. Now, Krishna fulfilled that desire by appearing in the forms of their children. All gopis exhibited more love for their children now than ever before, and the increase of their affection knew no bounds. The cows saw their calves at Govardhan Hill and came running to see them and allowed them to drink their milk sumptuously. The cowherd men saw this and angrily moved the cows. But when they saw their own sons, they were also overwhelmed with parental affection and embraced them with great love. Seeing this uncommon exchange between the cowherd men and cowherd boys, and the cows and the calves, Balaram was astonished. Krishna then related to Balaram what had happened due to the mischief of Brahma. After having stolen the gopas and the calves, Brahma returned within a moment, 1 year according to human calculations. To his surprise, he saw all the gopas and calves just as before. He was totally perplexed. Krishna took compassion on Brahma and lifted the curtain of Maya. As Brahma looked on, all the boys and calves got transformed into four-handed Vishnu forms. Many Brahmas, Shivas, demigods, sages, and moving and non-moving living entities were worshipping these Vishnu forms. Brahma was wonderstruck and practically fell unconscious. Krishna then withdrew the spectacular vision of his grandeur. Brahma could then see Krishna as a small Gopal, looking for his friends and calves, just as 1 year before. Immediately, Brahma fell at Krishna's lotus feet and practically washed them with tears from all of his 4 pairs of eyes. With his voice faltering and limbs trembling, he offered heartfelt prayers and said in self-reproach, "My dear Lord, just see my uncivilized impudence. I tried to test you. What am I compared to you? I am like a small spark in the presence of a great fire. I am a small creature enclosed in a pot-like universe. Unlimited universes come through your Mahavishnu's bodily pores as dust particles pass through a window screen. Simultaneously, the entire universe lies within you. Thus, I am also inside of you. Does a mother take offense when the child within her womb kicks her with his legs? I am like your son, and you are like my mother. I have taken birth from the lotus coming out of your Garbhodakshay Vishnu's navel. Considering me your servant and child, worthy of your compassion, kindly forgive my offense." Having begged pardon from Krishna, Brahma humbly expressed his heartfelt desire. "My dear Lord, I pray for the fortune of being engaged in your bhakti and counted as one of your devotees in any birth, in any species. How greatly fortunate are the cows and ladies of Vrindavan, the nectar of whose milk you have happily drunk in the form of calves and boys. My greatest possible fortune would be to take any birth in Vrindavan and have my head bathed by the dust of the lotus feet of any of its residents." Krishna was silent. Admitting the opulences of Krishna are beyond the reach of his mind, body, and words, Brahma requested Krishna's permission to leave and departed from there. An assembly of asses. After attaining Poganda, 5 to 10 years of age, Krishna took charge of tending cows. He enjoyed it very much. Krishna would imitate the singing of the honeybees, parrots, cuckoos, and swans. Krishna would sometimes massage the feet of Balaram. Sometimes he would take rest by putting his head in the lap of a gopa as the other boys massaged and fanned him. Once the gopas spoke to Krishna and Balaram. "Not far from here is a forest named Talavan, filled with rows of palm trees with delicious fruits. But it is guarded by a demon named Dhenuka, who surrounded it by similarly powerful ass demons. Dhenuka even eats men alive. Even birds are afraid to fly over that place. No one has ever tasted those sweet-smelling fruits. If you think it is good, let us go there and enjoy those fruits." Those are some brave cowherd boys. To please the gopas, Krishna and Balaram went to that forest. Mighty armed Balaram shook a tree to rain the fruits that Mighty Balaram shook a tree to rain the fruits that hung high. Hearing the sound, Dhenuka arrived at the scene and ran towards Balaram. He hurled his 2 hind legs at him, but Balaram caught Dhenuka and whirled him around, throwing him on top of a tree. Because of the weight of Dhenuka's dead body, many trees fell down. When other asses attacked, Krishna and Balaram killed all of them easily and threw them on top of the trees. The demigods felt very happy, and people started joyfully going to Talavan thereafter. Subsiding a serpent's pride and poison. One day, Balaram didn't accompany Krishna and the Gopas to the forest. On that day, it was Balaram's birthday. On that day, the cows and the Gopas went to the Yamuna to drink water. As soon as they drank water, all the boys became lifeless. Powerful Krishna immediately revived all of them with his glance. It was Kalia, a gigantic and envious snake that had poisoned the waters of Yamuna, which boiled as a result. Even the birds flying across were affected, and all moving and non-moving creatures of the riverbed. All moving and non-moving creatures of the river had died. Krishna then tightened his waist belt to prepare for battle with Kalia. He climbed the top of a tree, jumped into the lake adjoining Yamuna, and fearlessly sported in the waters. Intolerant territorial Kalia arrives there and furiously bit Krishna on the chest, enwrapping him in his coils. Many bad omens appeared in Vrindavan, and the Vrajvasis felt that Krishna must be in danger due to the absence of Balaram. They ran to Yamuna in great haste, following the footprints of Krishna that had special marks like lotus flower, barley corn, elephant goad, flag, and thunderbolt. Reaching the Kalia lake, they were in intense grief seeing Krishna in the coils of Kalia. All the Gopas, Gopis, cows, bulls, and calves in Vrindavan were devastated beyond console. The elderly Gopis held Mother Yashoda, wiping her tears and singing the glories of Krishna to keep her alive. Only Balaram was peaceful, as he knew the power of Krishna. Balaram stops the cowherd men who wished to enter the lake. Powerful Krishna remained for some time in Kalia's coils, while tasting the love of the Vrajvasis that intensified in those long moments of anguish. Seeing them, at one point on the verge of death, Krishna immediately came out of Kalia's bondage and encouraged the Vrajvasis. Kalia's coils had been tormented by the expanding body of Krishna, and thus he had released him. In great anger, Kalia raised his hoods high, breathing heavily. His nostrils appeared like vessels for cooking poison and eyes like firebrands. Kalia moved swiftly, but he could not bite Krishna. Krishna boarded on Kalia's hoods and began to dance in perfect harmony despite the serpent's constant attempts to bite him. The demigods played musical instruments as Krishna danced. Kalia had 101 prominent heads. Whenever a head didn't bow down, Krishna danced on it, making it red by the touch of his lotus feet. Kalia experienced extreme pain and misery. All the demigods worshipped Krishna with flowers. Krishna subdued all the 1,000 heads of Kalia, and Kalia finally took his shelter. Seeing him humbled, Kalia's wives, the Nagapatnis, approached the Lord along with their children and desired for their husbands' liberation. They said, "O Lord, the punishment you gave Kalia is most appropriate. Your anger towards her husband is actually your mercy. We don't understand the reason for this supreme mercy received by Kalia. When a person gets the dust of your lotus feet, he becomes detached from the pleasures of this world. Kalia achieves that which is very difficult, though he is in the mode of ignorance and filled with anger. As a merciful master tolerates a servant's mistake, you should now forgive our husband." Krishna released Kalia and told him, "Retreat with your family to the ocean. Garuda will no longer attack you because you have my footprints on your hoods." And there's a footnote here. All the serpents on the Ramanaka island were afraid of being devoured by Garuda. and Ramanaka is Fiji, right? To stop being eaten by the Garuda, they gave him offerings every month, but puffed up Kalia would eat these offerings himself. Garuda attacked Kalia, who then fled for his life to a lake adjoining the Yamuna River. Due to Sobari Muni's curse, Garuda wouldn't come to the lake of Yamuna, and thus Kalia took shelter of that lake. That seems a bit too late. Anyways, whatever. Kalia worshipped Krishna along with the wives and left for the sea. Yamuna was restored to its original condition by Krishna's mercy. Thereafter, Krishna came out of the lake, and the Vrajavasis felt great pleasure and relief. Yashoda placed Krishna on her lap and cried torrents of tears as she repeatedly embraced him. With their tears and the hearts captivated by Krishna's sweetness, no one wished to leave that place. All the Vrajavasis decided to spend the night at the bank of the Yamuna happily in Krishna's company. But during the night, suddenly a forest fire broke out and surrounded them. Krishna, however, immediately swallowed the forest fire and saved them. A demon in the disguise of a friend. 1 second, I'm just curious, how much longer are we reading for? Oh, okay, we're on the last page, so we'll be finishing now. The hot summer season, not very pleasing to people in general, finally arrived. In Vrindavan, however, due to Krishna's presence, summer seems like spring with waterfalls, chirping birds, growing flowers, and abundant green grass. Krishna and Balaram entered the beautiful Vrindavan forest along with the Gopas and played by whirling about, leaping, hurling, slapping, fighting, singing, and dancing. As they were enjoying in this way, a demon named Pralamba joins them in the form of a Gopa. He intended to kidnap Krishna and Balaram. Krishna detected this and called all the Gopas to play a game in which they divided themselves into two groups led by Krishna and Balaram. In this game, the winners would climb on the backs of the losers, who would have to carry them piggyback. Balaram's party won the game, and Krishna's party carried them on their backs. Krishna carried Sridham, and Pralamba carried Balaram. Pralamba took Balaram far beyond their spot, but powerful Balaram became very heavy to put brakes on him. Pralamba resumed his original demon form with a gigantic body, blazing eyes, fiery hair, terrible teeth, and an amazing effulgence of ornaments. Balaram seemed to become a little frightened apparently, but later just struck Pralamba's head with his fist, and Pralamba fell down dead like a mountain, crashing. The Gopas were ecstatic, and they all embraced Balaram with great affection. The demigods showered flowers on Balaram and felt happy because of the death of the sinful demon. Okay, this is the last one, and it's very short. Swallowing the forest fire. Once, due to extreme heat in a forest of canes, suddenly a forest fire arose, about to devour all the moving and non-moving entities. The Gopas became fearful and approached Krishna and Balaram. Seeing the pitiable condition of his dear friends, Krishna asked them to close their eyes. The simple-hearted Gopas, who had full faith in Krishna, closed their eyes. Krishna then effortlessly swallowed all the fire. When the Gopas opened their eyes, they didn't see the fire and became happy. Seeing the uncommon magic of Krishna, the Gopas thought that Krishna must be a powerful demigod. But in their innocent, friendly affection for Krishna, they thought, if Krishna is a demigod, we must also be demigods. Then all of them returned to the village, praising their dearest friend as he played his flute. Seeing Krishna's return, Gopis felt the greatest pleasure. His absence, even for a moment, was like 100 ages for these beautiful damsels of Vraj. All right, so we will continue reading this tomorrow. And yeah, this is a very, very quick synopsis of the 10th canto, so we'll be able to finish it in another 2 days. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. जय श्री श्री गुरु गौरांगंदार गिरिधारी श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जय श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मरण मोहन जू की जय नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शतस्मार भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शतस्मार भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शतस्मार भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupada Shitarashitashmar Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupada Shitarashitashmar Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Shilagorksharas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Nitila Pravishta Shri Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Nitila Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath, Shri Jeev Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath, Sharda Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari, Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai, Nama Chaish Lahairas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Sorry guys, Shiksheta Mandal, Gora Mandal, Vraja Mandal, Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Sarva Abhishta Bharata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kund Ki Jai, Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Purnamasi Yoga Maya Ki Jai, Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Shri Mohini Akadashi Titi Ki Jai, Akadashi Titi Palan Kari Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Om Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams to your devotees. Jai Rukmini Didi. Yeah, so now I'm going to finish the video that I was working on till 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to upload it very soon. I just need to export it and then I'll upload it. And that will be, in our Rupa Shiksha program, there are actually 2 verses this week. The other weeks there'll only be 1 verse, but this week there are 2 verses. So I made the video for the first verse, and today I'll also make the video for the second verse. Oh, the video is kind of embarrassing though. It's a bit cringy, but if I had time, I would have re-recorded it, but I just need to finish it, so anyways, you'll see it soon. But after you watch the videos, after you watch this video, I would appreciate your feedback if you're able to give it. I don't know, maybe I'm doing I made the practice, because some people were mentioning that in the previous video, the practice session was too short. And so this time I made it longer, but I think I made it too long. Anyways, just let me know what you think. And yeah, that will help me for the next video. All right, Dandavat Pranams, everybody. Kishore Prabhu, no. you shouldn't pick Tulsi on Mahadvadashi. And actually, it's not just that you don't pick Tulsi during the day of Akadashi, but you actually don't pick Tulsi when the Titi of Dwadashi starts. And you don't pick her until the Titi of Dwadashi ends. So it's important to look at the calendar. If you look on the purebhakti.com calendar, they show when Dwadashi starts and when Dwadashi ends. Lots of times Dwadashi will begin on the day that we observe Akadashi. Lots of times the Titi of Dwadashi will begin in the morning time. So sometimes you can't even pick Tulsi on Akadashi day. So yeah, something to look for. All right, Dandavat Pranams everybody. See you all tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe.